rapid pace out here early in the second. LeVert, hey, knocks it down. Rondo's on the run. Stops, hits Love. Love fires. Cavs reset with a fresh 14. Under 3 to go in the half. Garland works on Holiday. Lost it for a moment. Shovels to Mobley. Garland, step back three, drew a foul, knocks it down.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the first annual 2022 Cleveland Cavaliers NBA Draft Preview. I'm your host and moderator, Kevin Sledz. We've got our panel of experts ready to throw their knowledge at you on the prospects of what the Cavs may do at number 14. But before we get started, I want to throw out a couple affiliate sponsors we've been hooked up with. A Rogue Energy drink. I think they have 18 flavors. Another new one on the way this Friday. If you hook them up, they're different than the store-bought energy drinks. They have more vitamins, a little healthier for you. And we have a promo called Believeland Media. If you put that code in at checkout, you can save 10% off your purchase. So make sure you check them out. And then we just recently got hooked up with SeatGeek. So if you're looking for Guardians tickets or some local shows, concerts, it's summer, so it's concert season. First-time buyers for tickets, put in promo code Believeland and you get $20 off, which is a good deal. And the way the economy is, any way you can save a few bucks is definitely a good thing. So make sure you check them out, promo code Believeland, and save $20 off your first-time ticket purchase. All right, guys. So we have with us tonight, we got the boys from the All Things Cavalier podcast. First of all, Mr. Joey Schneider. How you doing, Joey? I know you were busy with some Little League games all day.
Crazy. Yeah. But here to talk about the Cavs draft. This is actually episode number what, Brandon?
35.
Episode number 35 of All Things Cavs. This is ATC this week. Draft special. We're talking a little bit about some stuff afterwards. But, and you got right next to me, my partner in crime, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brandon Lewis.
How's it going?
How's it going, Brandon?
Hey, it is going good. Glad to be here talking draft. It feels like it's been a long time since the lottery took place, and here we are now. Excited to be here.
I like the background picture with our first round pick from last year, Evan Mobley, our new cornerstones. Good choice. And then we have with us from the Den of the Dogs podcast, Mr. Clarence Wilson. Not only is he a Browns podcaster, but a big Cavs fan and a big NBA fan. So how you doing, Clarence?
I'm good. It's going to be nice to be able to talk about a team with no drama around it right
now. Very true. Very true. The Cavs are definitely the drama-free team, thankfully.
All right. LeBron's coming back.
Oh, don't start. I just said drama-free.
Wait till you hear my trade proposal. Sorry.
All right, so the Cavs, hopefully, last time in the lottery for a long time, they have the 14th pick. There's about 6-7 guys that have been rumored in all the different mock drafts to the Cavs at 14. So I'll just kind of throw out some names, and you guys can give your opinion on them. Joey, why don't we start with you? What do we talk about Johnny Davis out of Wisconsin? He's a guy that a lot of people say may not be there, may be there. I know he kind of carried that Wisconsin team. He's a 6'5" guard out of Wisconsin. What's your thoughts on Mr. Davis?
Johnny Davis he's got star potential written all over him. He's, and a lot of the guys that we're going to be talking about, they all have star potential, but there's very few that really feel like they're going to be, like potential all-stars. I think there's a lot of starters in this draft. This is a very, very deep draft for that. But as far as Johnny Davis, look, he's 6'5". He could play point guard. But he played shooting guard at Wisconsin. He basically carried the Wisconsin team. He averaged 18 plus points a game, and as a shooting guard, averaged over 8 rebounds a game. I mean, that's crazy for a shooting guard to average 8 boards. One of the biggest knocks on him is that he's only a 30% three-point shooter. And for the Cavs, I think that might be a little bit of an issue. I'm not saying if Johnny Davis is there, I'm not taking him, because if Johnny Davis is there, I don't know if there's someone else that I would take over him as far as someone who is a complete package right now. His 3-point shooting can get better with time. It's not like he's coming in shooting, 20% or 15%. I think he shot 30.7% from three. And I think maybe it was on four or five attempts a game. So, but his defense is outstanding. His offensive game, he could get to the rim. He could shoot with, he can go right or left. So if Johnny Davis on the board, it would be very tough to pass up. I think that the kid's probably going to be an all-star within maybe 3 or 4 years.
I see a comparison of Manu Ginobili. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, Johnny Davis is definitely a interesting prospect. As Joey said, he did not shoot great from three last year, only 30%. But we've seen players in the NBA come in the league not able to shoot and quickly able to develop a shot. And I think in this draft specifically, the Cavs are looking for a wing, if you will, to make an impact right away on this team and a guy to go get buckets. And the important thing about Davis is the pressure is not going to be on him. He's not going to be the primary scorer out there. If he would start, I suspect he probably would come off the bench, but he's going to be a guy who can create his own shot and can make baskets. And that's the thing that the Cavs missed most last season. And on top of it, he did carry that Wisconsin team, and he's shown leadership. He's a great personality, and that is, I think, one of the big things also the Cavs are going to be looking forward to in this draft is a guy that can come in, a guy who is a team player, a guy that will score, a guy that will play defense, a guy that will rebound, a guy that will pass the ball, and Johnny Davis definitely checks all those boxes.
All right, Clarence, how do you feel about the Big Ten Player of the Year?
I kind of second, or I guess third, what these guys are saying. He seems like he's a guy that would come in and set the culture. Tough shot maker. He seems to be a solid rebounder. If he was there, if he fell that far, I guess the Cavs would have to take him. But if anybody knows anything about me, I'm a big guy on big wide receivers, and I know we need a big wing. I'm not sure he fits that mold, but I mean, if he falls that far, he's going to be the best player available on the board at that point, I would think. So if he's there, you got to take him. But I want a big wing.
Fair enough. I like everything I heard. I think my only concern is the shooting percentage. I think we do need a guy who is a good outside shooter, another scorer off the bench. But you mentioned big wings, Clarence, and that this next guy definitely fits that mold. He's a guy that I've kind of fallen in love with, didn't know a whole lot about, but the more I've looked into him, checked out the highlights, I really like him. I'm talking about Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara, just under 6'6", but the kid has a 7'2" wingspan, which is crazy. Very long. Like I said, not too many people know much about him, but we're going to enlighten you. So, Joey, why don't you start it off? What can you tell us about Jalen Williams?
So Jalen Williams was a late first round, maybe even early second round, prospect. And then as the draft process started going, I don't know if people just didn't look at his highlight tapes or what was going on, but when he was on the court with these other, prospects, he was shining through more than anyone else. Jalen Williams is no one to be scoffed at. And truthfully, this is the pick that I have come to fall in love with for the Cavs at 14. I'm also very high on Agbaji from Kansas. I'm pretty sure we'll get to him as well. But Jalen Williams, 6'6", like you said, 7'2" wingspan, 40% shooter from three, averaged 18 points, almost 5 assists and 5 boards a game. The biggest knock on this guy is that he played at Santa Clara. But as we've talked about, a lot of superstars didn't go to big colleges. The last, I think Kawhi Leonard went to San Diego State. I think the last guy to come from Santa Clara was Steve Nash. If I'm wrong on that, someone correct me. So, Giannis was international. Jokic was international. Excuse me. There's my one, Brandon. Jalen Williams just has this. He has this feel that if Johnny Davis, if we had Johnny Davis come in, he's going to be an immediate impact. I feel like he's super aggressive enough to do that. Jalen Williams, though, I think has the much higher ceiling. I think in 2 or 3 years, Jalen Williams could I think Jalen Williams could be an all-star. Then the Cavs won't have a big 3, they'll have a big 4, or maybe even a big 5. I think this kid is the sky's the limit for him. It's just going to be right. What's the right team? Is he the best fit on the Cavs? I think that he is. Defensively sound, offensively sound, can pass, great court vision. So that's who I personally would take at 14 is Jalen Williams.
All right, Brandon, how you feeling about Jalen Williams?
Yeah, I think you're going to hear a lot of similar stuff about a lot of similar guys. Me and Joey have talked about this a lot. There's a lot of similar players in this draft with very similar skill sets. And Jalen Williams is just one of these guys who I just call a flat-out ball player. He can do everything. He is not afraid to just go in there and get points and get rebounds and defend. I mean, he averaged over 1 steal a game this season. And if the biggest knock on a player is the fact that he went to a small school, I have never really been, kind of that, you can't draft a guy because he went to a small school guy. I may look at the tape. Does the guy flash on your screen type of guy? Jalen Williams is a guy that's going to come in, and when he's on the court, you are going to notice him because he's going to play at 100 miles an hour, and he's going to make an impact in whatever department he is in. Yes, I think he's definitely an option, and I would love for the Cavs to take him at 14.
What school did Steph Curry go to?
Davidson.
Exactly. Clarence, you want a big wing. This guy fits the bill. What do you think?
I do like Jalen Williams. I do like the fact that he is, 6'6". One of the main things I think that stood out for me is that he played a lot of point guard, and being a guy that's that big, being a primary ball handler, I think that would be a huge get for the Cavs. It would take a little bit of the pressure off of DG, so we didn't have to handle it. As well as, we're not sure the Collins situation, but either way, it gives them another ball handler and another guy who can score, get buckets, and just be a very versatile player. I think that's one of the things Cavs need. They need a guy who can do a little bit of everything. Io, love Io, great dude, great defender, but, there's a lot of times you don't get a lot out of the feast or famine. I think with Jalen Williams is a guy that you would get a little bit of everything every night from the kid. So, I'm okay with him. He's still a couple inches shorter than I'd like, but I like it.
He may be my number 1 pick now. So, like I said, I've fallen in love with him. All right, so next guy, Joey mentioned him, so we might as well get right into him. Ochai Agbaji out of Kansas. A lot of mocks have him going to the Cavaliers. 6'5" and 3/4, 6'10" wingspan. And another guy who I think would fit in well here. Joey, what do you got on Agbaji?
So I love Agbaji. Again, a lot of these guys that we're looking at 14, they have knocks on them for whatever reason. Played at a small school. Maybe three-point shooting percentage isn't where they want it to be. Knock on him is that he played 4 years at Kansas. He's older. He's 22 years old. That's his biggest knock. But he improved every single year over year. He averaged, I want to say, 18 or 20 points per game at Kansas for his senior season. He was just everywhere, and he did everything. He came back. He won a national championship, and he's a 40% 3-point shooter. He can score at all 3 levels. He's a great defender. He's a jack of all trades. I don't know if he's a master of any though. So we'll see. But to me, he's kind of like a Johnny Davis. Like you can bid him in, and he can just make an impact immediately. Now, whether that's off the bench or whether that's in the starting five is another question. But Agbaji is he's such a good, well-rounded player all around that he's probably, in my opinion, he's the safest pick the Cavs can make. If you say, give me a guy who's going to be productive, a guy who can come off the bench or start and give you points, defend, hit the three consistently every night, I'd say then you're probably looking at Agbaji. I can't say for certain that he would take that jump to be an all-star, but I can say that if you're looking for someone to come in and just give you production right now, Agbaji's that guy.
All right, Brandon, how do you feel about him?
Yeah, this is a guy who, and Clarence mentioned it a little bit earlier when talking about Isaac Okoro, but we saw last year, especially late in the season when Darius Garland did not have his shot going, the Cavs really struggled scoring points offensively. And this is a guy that can knock down threes, and that was the biggest problem for this Cavs team. One of the biggest problems, at least in my opinion, was when they needed a guy who could just go get a bucket or go make a three to stretch the floor. They did not have it. And Agbaji is that guy. Now, he is a little bit smaller at 6'5". Again, not too small, but maybe a little bit smaller of what we're looking for at 6'5". But like Joey said, he can do everything at all three levels, score defensively. And the thing that I love about him is the fact that, yes, he is a senior. Yes, he did win the national championship. But you know what? I like that. I like the fact that he's a little bit older because, as I've said, on the All Things Cavs podcast before, the Cavs do not really need a guy, another 18, 19, 20-year-old kid that's going to keep developing. They need an impact player now because they are one or two pieces away. And this guy can come in, he can be mature, and he can do everything the Cavs possibly need to contribute this season.
I agree. How about you, Clarence?
I agree. One of the things I like about him, he's got because he's not, he is 6'5", but he has a nice 6'10" wingspan from everything that I've read. So that's definitely going to help him out on the defensive end. And he can shoot. Just like Brandon said, the Cavs need somebody else besides DG and Love coming off the bench and the crapshoot that is Chetty to be able to go out and make a three when it's needed. He seems to be that type of player who can do that. And I think he can step in and, probably be a nice come off the bench, maybe as like a spark plug guy or start. But I almost see him as to show my age here, a little microwave action. Vinnie Johnson maybe coming off the bench and lighting teams up.
There you go. And I agree with Brandon. With where the Cavs are at, making the play in, they got that little taste. They're ready for that. Take that next step into contention. We don't need a guy who's going to take a couple years to develop. We need a guy that can come in and contribute right away. And he's definitely probably the best suited to do that right now. All right, moving on. Little homerism with this one. Another one of my favorites. I'm talking about Malachi Branham, the Akron boy out of Ohio State. He's a little undersized for what they're looking for, 6'5", 180. Is probably one of the top 3-point shooters in the draft. Joey, what can you give us on Malachi?
Sorry, I was muted there. Now I'm pulling up my notes on Malachi. Hang on, give me a second. So I for some reason I'm not a fan of Malachi Branham. He is there. One of the things we keep talking about is and Clarence has said is he wants that big wing. There are none in this draft. Almost every player that we are talking about is going to be a combo, a 3-4 or a 2-3 type player. There's no one in this draft that is like a pure number 3, 6'8". I know Clarence is looking for the next LeBron. Does not exist in this draft. Your best bet is, if you want someone to come in and contribute right away, would be, like I said, like a Jalen Williams, and who can, continue to grow over time. But Branham, the one thing that he is amazing at is he's one of the best 3-level scorers in his draft class. I mean, he can get to the rim, he can hit the jumper, he can hit the three, and that is something that the Cavs sorely need. But he wasn't even really the number one option on the Ohio State team. That would, him and EJ Liddell kind of split that. Defensively, sometimes he shows up, sometimes he doesn't. I'm not going to be a homer on this because everyone knows I love Ohio State, but I see Branham as a good bench player, a good role player. I do not see him as a starter on any solid team. I see him as someone, a potential 6-man coming off the bench. Loved his game at Ohio State, but I just don't think he's the right fit for the Cavs. I think that there's going to be other options there. And that's unfortunately my take. Not to break any of the Ohio State fans' hearts out there, but I'm not a fan of Branham on the Cavs, and maybe he'll put me wrong, but just great player in college. I just don't know if he's going to translate to the pros that well.
Brandon, what do you think about Malachi?
Yeah, I mean, I not to just continue to agree with you guys, but there's really, no guy, I don't think Branham is a lottery pick. I just don't. Waddell flashed for me a lot more at Ohio State. Branham, to me, he's a nice player. He could be a good role player somewhere, but also, like as we just talked about, he is almost the complete opposite of Abaji, where Abaji was a 4-year starter, 22 years old. Branham is 18 years old, 19 years old. Excuse me. He's a freshman. The Cavs, I do not want to draft a 19, 20-year-old freshman who's still learning, let's face it, still learning the game of basketball in a way. And like we said, he was the number 2 option at best at Ohio State. Some games he disappeared, did not give a complete effort 100% of the time, in my opinion. And it's not a pick I'm interested in for the Cavs.
Clarence, what do you think about the former St. V star?
I hate agreeing with you guys again too, but the guy can score. One of the things he can do. I've been looking at some of his splits and his numbers. The guy can shoot. That's the one thing he can do. But from everything I've read and some of the tape that I've watched on him, it doesn't seem like he can do much else. So it almost seems like he's, kind of a one-tool player. And I think, in today's NBA, he can maybe be a specialist for the Cavs. Just come in and try and light it up. But I feel like, he might become a liability on other areas on the floor, especially on defense. I wouldn't take him at 14, but again, it's all depends on how the draft board falls. But as of right now, I'd pass.
Okay. All right, we got to welcome. We got a new addition. Joel Ewell's on the fly. His baseball game ran a little over, but he's with us. So we're on Malachi Branham right now. What are your thoughts on Mr. Branham?
I got to agree with Joey, and from what Joey said and what Brandon said and Clarence, I think that, he's a decent offensive player. I don't think, he's by far, what the best value of offensive players could be at that draft pick for the Cavs. I'm an Ohio State fan. I loved him when he was at Ohio State. I wish he would come back, but, I just don't think it's what the Cavs need. I think there's other needs to address, and there's better usage at that pick.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I did like is when Coach Holtman moved him into the starting line. It's kind of when he really took off and really started to shine. And they even said they were surprised with how good of a 3-point shooter he became so quick. But in my opinion, as much as I love him, he's a little too undersized. He was my number 1 pick for a while, just the little homerism there. But like I said, I think Jalen Williams has definitely surpassed him for me. All right, so moving on, we've got Tari Eason out of LSU. He's a 6'8" wing, 217. He also has a 7'2" wingspan. Really known for his defense, a very good defender. Still a bit of a work in progress offensively and with his outside shot. But Joey Schneider, what do you have on Tyree Eason?
I like Eason a lot. I think he's again. There are no pure wings in this draft, so he's a 3-4. He played power forward a lot, but he did handle the ball a lot as well at LSU. A lot of people do knock his offensive game, but he did average almost 17 points a game, 7 rebounds, and his defensive stats were just absolutely insane. I think it was like something like 4.5% of his defensive of the time he was on defense ended in a steal, just because of something that he did, and 6.5% ended in a block. Like he gets after it, and he shoots 36% from 3. So it's not exactly like his offensive game is that far gone. He's long, he's 6'8". And on top of that, I believe he had the number 1 transition offense in the nation. And me and Brandon have talked about this. I don't know if it was on or off the podcast, but what's the one thing that the Cavs love to do? They love to run in transition. So I think that Eason could be somewhat of a good fit for the Cavs. I think that there's going to be better options at 14, but if they're, let's just say for the sake of argument, everyone is off the board, I'm not going to be upset if Eason ends up on the Cavs. Just really a defensive specialist, but has that offensive game if you need it. And, could he be a great fit for the Cavs? Yeah, absolutely. It just depends on who's on the board. Like I said, I think there's going to be players that are there that we're going to take above him, but for the sake of argument, if everyone's gone and he ends up on the Cavs, I wouldn't be upset. I think that he can make an impact.
All right, Brandon, what are your thoughts?
I think Eason is a potential all-star, multiple all-star player in this league if he can constantly shoot better every single season. But he is really what the new NBA, as I've called it, is about. 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", whatever you may have. You're a long 2, 3, 4 guy who can just versatile, play multiple positions, defend and get out and run and be athletic. And that is one thing the Cavs really do not have. We talk about Evan Mobley, obviously a very athletic forward. But when Jared Allen went out last season, we saw their shot blocking kind of went down because Mobley hasn't been able to play the 5 yet. I think if you add Eason into a bench unit where if you pair him up with a guy like Kevin Love who can take the pressure off him, let Eason go to the basket and just let him defend. Because that was one of the biggest problems the Cavs last season was while their defense was good, it almost felt like every big lead that they got off to, they almost immediately gave it up because the bench unit wasn't as strong defensively as the starting unit. I think this kid would fit in perfectly if you give him time and if he develops his shot. It's the question of will the Cavs be willing to be patient enough to let him do that.
Clarence, how do you feel about Mr. Eason?
He's starting to get towards the height that I like. 6'7", 6'8". Seems to be a supreme athlete. The one thing that does concern me a little bit, and doing a little bit of research, is the turnovers. I believe I read that he averaged 2 turnovers for every assist. That's scary, and that's just in the college game, and it seems like he also, as we were talking about the offensive game, it seems like he has one kind of offensive move, which is drive to the bucket. Now, obviously, in the he's going to get some training and things of that nature, and probably expand his game a little bit. But just coming in, I'm not sure if he's a guy that would help right away. As a lot of these guys that we're talking about, they kind of sound like they're going to be some kind of projects to me. I do like the athleticism, though. I do like the hustle and the tough D, but the turning the ball over, that's a little bit scary for me.
I do want to point out that he only averaged 1 assist per game.
Yeah.
So that's only 2 turnovers per game.
Yeah. Still.
All right. Joe Ewell, how do you feel about the LSU product?
Overall, in all honesty, I'm not really that high on him. I guess my point of view personally is kind of almost where Joey's at. Like, it's not a guy that I'm like, oh my God, I want him so bad. Like there's a lot of other guys that I'm sure I was late to the conversation that you talked about that I would much rather have the Cavaliers take with their pick or try to go get, because I just think that though the Cavs are young, they proved that they can compete at a very high level, and they just need, he really reminds me a lot of an Isaac Okoro, and that kind of defensive wing player. I mean, I think he has more potential on the offensive end with how his height and size is, but I'm just not sold on him to be that guy. And I think that there's just better products that we can take. And I agree with Clarence that a lot of the guys that the Cavs would have to take are going to be projects. And I think that there's better projects for the Cavaliers to take on that would help us be patient in areas that we have other support in.
Okay.
I do. Let me jump in here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just because we passed over probably, I know two of Joe's favorite prospects. So, Joe, we talked about before we jumped on Johnny Davis, Agbaji, and Jalen Williams.
Yeah, you're killing me. Those are my 2 favorite, the top 2. Right? killing me. I mean, Johnny Davis is my man.
I believe you have him ranked 5th on your big board, which is a lot higher than most people have him. A lot of people, I think CBS Sports has him ranked at 20. But
I love it.
Give us your thoughts on Davis, Agbaji, and Williams real quick.
I mean, I'll start with Williams. I think he's a solid player. I honestly would rather have Williams, I think, over Eason, just as that kind of perspective. I like Williams a lot better. I think he'll make the transition to the NBA a little bit better. Agbaji, I mean, the guy is an amazing scorer. I love the fact that he's gonna fit the Cavs ratio at age right now. Like, he has that maturity. It's not gonna have to be taught to him. He was coached by a phenomenal coach at Kansas. And
They lose him.
he had the opportunity last year draft to come out and play and great and translate it. So, like, I thought Johnny Davis was the best basketball player in college basketball last year. I think that highly of him. I think he's the best scorer in college basketball last year. I mean, single-handedly, you saw what happened. So Johnny Davis, to me, he's that guy. And I already told Joey this when him and I have talked, looking at the mock. If Johnny Davis or Agbaji get drafted to the Cavaliers, I will order that night.
You broke up a lot there, Joe, but just to kind of give everyone a recap, Joe is doing this driving home, so he's breaking up a lot. It's hard to understand. He is a Johnny Davis fanatic. He thinks the world of Johnny Davis. And if Johnny Davis falls number 14, I am fairly confident that Joe Ewell will run around his block naked with sparklers, just making Johnny Davis just his autograph in the air. It's Johnny Davis he's just like we talked about. He's extremely intriguing, and Agbaji is Joe's second favorite player, or there might even be 1-1 just because of transition. Like he said, the age. He's not going to be a young guy coming in. He's 22. He was coached very well. He's very mature. He won a national championship at Kansas. So maybe that fit coming right into the Cavs. And like we've talked about, if you're looking for someone that's going to give you production right off the bat, Agbaji might be the guy to do it. But that's essentially what Joe was saying. Johnny Davis is number one for him. He's got him way up on his big board, and Agbaji is number two.
Most definitely. Love those two guys. I hope they fall. I don't think they should personally, but I hope they do.
All right, so we ran through all the guys who are either the most rumored to the Cavs at 14 or seem to be the best fit. Is there maybe another guy that we didn't talk about that you feel could be a good fit or that you like? Let's start with Joey Schneider.
Well, so there's two guys. One, me and Joe had fallen into the Cavs in our first mock draft. We didn't get a chance to put our second mock draft, just due to time and in personal schedules. And then there's another guy who is a massive project who I would absolutely stay away from, but I think he would be a good fit on another team who has more time. And so the first player is AJ Griffin from Duke. I think that there's a possibility he can fall to 14. He came in with such high expectations for Duke, and he really didn't live up to those expectations. So whatever team drafts him are going to be drafting someone who had a decent year at Duke. And yes, he was surrounded by a ton of talent. Paolo Banchero, Mark Williams, there was a ton of talent there. But he needs to prove that he has that explosiveness that he didn't really show. He only really flashed at Duke, but he had in high school. But the one thing about him is he's a 45% 3-point shooter. He shot 45% from three for Duke. He's I believe he's 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan. So he was great on defense. If he falls, that'll be very tough. I know a lot of people compare him to Jimmy Butler. Now, I hate these comparisons because you're like, oh, I'm comparing him to a probable Hall of Famer. I mean, he's never played in the NBA before, but he's someone who could potentially fall to 14. And if he does, that would be very interesting for the Cavs if they would look at him and go, we can't pass up the potential there. And the second guy is Ousmane Dieng, who played in New Zealand, an international player. He's 6'9", 6'10". He could be the next Giannis, and he could be the next Giannis's brother. That's basically, where it goes. He's got his season was a tale of two halves. The first half, he was really atrocious, to be quite honest. He's just, it's potential. But the second half, he came on, and I think he was averaging like 16 or 18 a game. Was having good court vision, and with his height, his length, he can play basically 1 through 5. So he's intriguing, but I don't think that he's a good fit on the Cavs. He's a very long project. And I even made the joke, like he might become an all-star by his second contract. So someone, I guess if the Cavs wanted to take a huge gamble on someone that could potentially turn into a megastar, maybe, but I just don't see it. They're in win now mode, and there's gonna be better players to help them win right now. But those are the two that come to mind for me.
All right, Brandon, anybody else stick out that we didn't touch on?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is a guy who potentially, would be a little bit of risk because he's a young kid. He's only 19. And I know I talked about I don't really want to draft young kids, but the difference with this guy is he did not play in college. He actually played in the G League, and that is Jaden Hardy. He's a 6'4" guard. He averaged 18 points and 5 rebounds a game for a 6'4" guard. Now, he only shot 35% from the field. He's not a great shooter. He's a pretty good defender, kind of like an Isaac Okoro-like player. But again, he's mature. He came from the G League. He's got NBA-like experience that will come into the NBA right away, and he can provide a spark plug offense. Again, for a guy that can't shoot that well, only shot 35% from the floor, scored 18 points a game. So to me, that shows that he does a really good job of tagging the basket, and I think he could provide great energy for the Cavs potentially off the bench.
All right, Clarence, you got anybody that sticks out to you besides the ones we talked about?
Not really. I have a little bit of interest in Kendall Brown. He can guard multiple positions. Good athlete. He's lacking in a lot of areas. To be quite honest, with 14, I almost want them to package that pick and try and make a deal for a possible upgrade on the wing. It's draft season, so anything can happen. But if I've heard rumors of Jeremy Grant or Miles Bridges, if he doesn't resign with Charlotte, a possibility. He's still on the smaller end, but he's a big body. And then me as a UNC guy, and I saw what Harrison Barnes has done his entire career, I think he might be able to come in and fit in that position really well. I would really like them to trade the pick. There is a guy in the second round that if they were to trade this pick, that I think that they could go after, and this guy might not be that far off from the guys that we're talking about. His numbers aren't going to show. He played on a team that was coming off a Final Four, so he didn't really have a spot, I guess. It didn't really have a chance to get on the court. A lot of that was due to him. But for some reason, I really, really like Peyton Watson in the second round. If they could make some kind of trade at 14 to get a wing and they bring in Peyton Watson, I feel like a lot of the guys we talked about are development guys anyway. If we can get a guy in a similar vein, Peyton Watson is a ball handler. He's a defender. He struggles with the shot like a lot of guys that we talked about. But I feel like the difference between him and the guys we talk about at 14 isn't that steep. So if they were to be able to make a move with 14, a trade or something like that, and then, with 39, be able to pick up Peyton Watson, I would be completely happy with that.
Yeah, we do have a couple second-round picks as well this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Joe Ewell, anybody else that sticks out to you?
I really do like Kendall Brown. Like Clarence was saying, he knows how to win too, and I think that's a big thing. But AJ Griffin, I like him. I love watching Duke basketball. That's why I'm so high on Paolo. Coach K is arguably, one of the greatest coaches of all time. He is one of the greatest coaches. But, so I like those two guys. But, kind of like we said, you guys know who my guys are, who I want them to take. There's I've made it clear as day on who I want the Cavs taking at 14. If not, I wrote, I was talking about that in that one article that I wrote about their offseason. I'd like them to set a package deal up for 14 and go attack a wing, and maybe possibly look into a sign and trade with Sexton and package a pick in with Sexton and go get a really good player with that.
Yeah, so that kind of transitions us into the offseason. So you talk about potential trades for 14. I know, Clarence, you mentioned a couple guys. Joey Schneider, before the show, you were talking about Bradley Beal rumor you heard. I think in the position the Cavs are in now, I think that would maybe be my top preference, is to move the pick for a veteran guy that can help either off the bench or in the starting lineup. So, Joey Schneider, what are you thinking along those lines?
Well, I'm sorry. Excuse me. If they're going to package Sexton, they need to get someone back. If you're going to package Sexton in 14, especially in a deep draft like this, you need to be looking to get someone back who is basically an all-star. Not basically. You are looking for an all-star type player. Whether it's Bradley Beal, there's people who've mentioned Paul George. I don't think that's possible, but that would be who you're looking for. Colin Sexton is not. To me, he is on the same level. And I know this might sound weird, but he's on the same level to me as like a Donovan Mitchell. I don't think that they're too far off. And Mitchell, I personally I don't think that they're that far off as players. I think that Sexton, he needs to improve his three just a little bit, but I think that the small sample size we saw last year, he plays very well with this Cavs team. He was averaging 17 points a game. He was averaging more assists than he had in his career. He was playing some lockdown D, and and unfortunately, he got hurt, but I mean, he was rising up and throwing down some pretty ferocious dunks as well. But are you going to pay him what he wants? And we don't know what that number is. Is he looking? I mean, we know that he wants 20 million or more. Are you going to give him 20, 22, 24, 25 million dollars a year? That's another question. Is there a player that you can package though with, or not package, but is there a player after that you can package Sexton at 14, and maybe Cedi Osman, or maybe they want Isaac Okoro.
Please, package Osman, get him out of here.
If you can go after and get someone like a Bradley Beal, that's or a Paul George, that would probably be ideal. But I think that there's just a lot of players that are few and far between that teams are willing to part with right now, unless they're trying to go into a full rebuild mode, and no one really is. And there's really not that many people out there, to go get. So I think Beal would probably be your best option. But how much really would the Wizards want? They would probably want multiple year picks too.
Yeah.
It probably just wouldn't be 14, would probably be, maybe 2 more first rounders, but Bradley Beal on the Cavs with, Garland and Mobley and Allen, and then you probably just slide LeVert in there at the 3. That's a playoff team. I don't know if there's anyone that can argue that. Love coming off the bench. Maybe we can re-sign Rubio. But if I'm the Cavs and I'm looking to trade, that's who I'm going after. I'm going after Bradley Beal. He's still I think he's only 28. He's got good years left. He is injury prone, but if he can stay healthy, he's one of the best shooting guards in all of basketball.
Yeah, they no doubt have to give up a ton, but man, just thinking about a Garland Beal backcourt is it'd be pretty damn fun to watch. Brandon, what are you thinking about the offseason possible trades for 14 or Sexton?
Joey, start off looking at you, because we have spent the last 2 months since the Cavs were winning from the play-in tournament talking scenarios, talking guys, talking players, talking trades, talking picks. We have alluded to this how many times. The Cavs have options. To me, they have a lot of similar like players that, as I said, even if they bring in a draft pick, someone is going to have to get traded or just not play this season. Isaac Okoro, Karis LeVert, Cedi Osman, this draft pick, they are all, presumably this draft pick, they're all wing type players that you're just not going to have room for, especially if you want to include if they're going to bring back Sexton and Rubio. I think for the Cavs, it comes down to, unless you're going to get a Bradley Beal done, which Bradley Beal by far to me is the best available free agent / trade piece this summer. It's not, a crazy where a lot of stars are available this summer. It's a lot of role-like players. If you're going to give up the 14th pick, to me, no disrespect to Mikal Bridges or Harrison Barnes, but they're not worth a 14 pick to me. I think they're decent players, but I think certainly a 14 pick at that position could be better than those players. To me, if I'm giving up the 14 pick, I'm giving away Sexton with it, and I'm going all in, and I'm getting a Bradley Beal-like player, because that's what I believe the Cavs need to do. I think the biggest thing the Cavs need to do is they either need to re-sign Sexton, or they need to use him as a sign trade and go get one of those big pieces, because their biggest problem, I would say, would be just in general a wing. And one of the things that I would like a team to do in the offseason, don't complain about your problems, go solve them. We all know what your problem is. Do whatever you have to do to go solve it, because as long as the Cavs have this problem, they're not going to go further and further in the postseason. And for me, we've seen it. NBA teams being aggressive usually wins in sports. Now, generally over the last couple of years, as me and Joey have talked about in the past, the NBA has changed over the last couple of years. You certainly do not need 3 or 4 superstars anymore to go win a championship, I believe. I think you need 1 or 2 great pieces and a bunch of role players surrounding them. And Darius Garland and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen and these guys for the Cavs could be it. But I have questioned the Sexton Garland fit from the start. I questioned it when they drafted Garland. I said, I don't know how you can have 2 6'1" guards in the backcourt. I know the stat. The Cavs were 7-4 last year with Colin Sexton in the lineup. And Joey has said to me multiple times, and I understand it. To me, it's too much of a small sample size. I view Sexton as a great scorer. I think he's more of a 2 guard than a 1 guard. I don't know if he necessarily fits here in Cleveland next to Garland. I will still question, do I see it work for a full season? And in short, I think it's going to come down to what the Cavs are offered, because I don't think that they are in control of the Sexton situation to me at all. If Detroit or Indiana, who are rumored to go after him, if they come out because he's a restricted free agent and they say, oh, we'll give you $24 million, they're going to have to let Sexton walk. You can't pay him that money. So it all comes down to that. And at the end of the day, I think at this present in time, they have to make the best decision for them. And I think that best decision will be make a pick at 14. And then when free agency opens up, we see what happens.
All right, Clarence, I know you threw a couple names out there, but what are your feelings on Colin? You want to see him stay or go?
I'm at that position where if they can't make a move to get anybody else in here, whether that be through the draft, and like I said, at 14, to me, I'll be honest, 14, this pick to me is not, I don't see this being, unless the Cavs get really lucky, I don't see this pick being a pick that is going to be a guy that for sure is going to come in and be able to contribute right away. You know, there's going to be shooters and things of that nature, but if they can't get anybody who can come in and score the basketball using 14 and maybe Sexton or, you know, Chetty or Wendler or whoever else, I feel like you almost have to bring Sexton back just to see what he is. And then you can go into the season, and then if you got to make a move with him at that point and signing him, okay. But I'm almost at that point where it's like I'd like to see those two play together for more than, you know, the 10, 11 games that they did between Sexton and Garland. Because as we've been saying, you know, one of the big things the Cavs haven't had all year long was another guy that can go and get in a bucket. We know for sure that Sexton can go get a bucket for sure. So, you know, like I said, at 14 to me, I don't feel like there's a huge difference between somebody picking at 14 and at, you know, 40 or 30, you know, in the mid 30s right now. I just don't see, you know, that big of a difference. So use the pick and go get what you need if that's available, if it's available. Now, I agree with what Brandon said. You know what? Harrison Barnes, yeah, he's probably not worth 14. Miles Bridges, I think I would probably give up 14 for Bridges. I think he's a proven player in the NBA, and that's what you need. We're trying to win. The Cavs went from all of us thinking, you know what, all right, these guys are going to be okay, to we were almost a playoff team. So their timeline is accelerating from where we started last year. So I'd rather go get the guy who is going to put us over the top to making us perennial playoff team every single year and fill a need, as opposed to taking a shot on 14. And as I said, if we can keep Sexton, I wouldn't mind seeing them try to work out something where, you know, they sign him on the team friendly deal. They let him play. They see what happens. If it doesn't work out, you know what? We know he has value. We know for sure he has value. 14, we pick Osamang Dang and he don't have no value, we're stuck. So I'm okay with keeping Colin at the right number, or using him in 14 to find the person that we're looking at to fill that wing slot.
All right, Joe, I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with this, but what are your thoughts on Colin Sexton?
I think he's a good ball player. I really do. It's not, it's not that I dislike him as a player. I just, I truly do like him. Like I'm a Russell Westbrook fan as well. But the style of basketball that Colin Sexton plays, I just don't think fits with what the Cavaliers need or have, and what was proven last year. I don't think that he's going to work with Garland, and I could very well be wrong. And I hope that, if the Cavs do, that's a big qualification that I have is we can't pay more than 20. I would really love to see like a 3-year, $16 million deal per year. So I think that would be a fair deal. And if you want to throw in a player option to where, if he proves it enough, then that'll sweeten the deal a little bit better than sweeten the deal with the player option on that 30 year. But make him prove to you that he's worth the money, or make it a $22 million contract and make it a back half contract. So this way that, in that first year that he's proving everything to you, the majority of the money that you're still going to pay him is going to be in the back half. And if you do have to deal him because he's not doing so good, you're paying the cheaper part of the contract. But if they are going to go with somebody with just the draft pick, I would like a Miles Bridges. I think that also getting Mikal Bridges from the Suns wouldn't be a bad look at 14. He's a very good wing player for them. I would really love to. I know it will never happen, but a dream scenario for me would be packaging Sexton, 14, and another first-round pick for Shea and OKC. I think the style of ball that Shea plays and his frame would work fantastically with Garland because Shea's just a bucket. And I would, I genuinely, I wouldn't mind seeing a straight-up deal Sexton for Donovan Mitchell. I think I would rather see Mitchell in a Cavaliers uniform than see Sexton in one next year. And I would absolutely love it even more if they packaged Chetty Osman into that deal too, because I do not like Osman. Yeah. He has to be my least favorite player on the Cavs team.
I'm ready to see Chetty go. But as far as Colin goes, I'm a Sexton fan, but I'm pretty much in the same boat. I don't want to play him over $20 million a year. And I don't think he's a fit alongside Garland. I think if he comes back, he steals that 6-man role from Kevin Love. But as far as the 14th pick goes, one guy I really like as far as a trade candidate who I think would fit in perfect here, who I wanted them to acquire last year. I wanted Karis LeVert as well, but it's Jeremy Grant from the Pistons. I just think he would fit in perfect here, offensively, defensively, and the style that they play. You'd probably have to give up a little more than 14 to get him, but that's my number one target for the 14th pick.
Can I throw one thing at you guys? Because I wrote this in my article where I talked about Sexton's decision. You can go right on Believeland Media, RC.com. What about bringing back Sexton? Let's say give him 21-22, but it's a 1-year deal. Bring him back for 1 year. Approve it, 1-year deal.
I feel like you got to give him more than 1 year, just simply because he's coming off the injury, number one. And then number two, like if he balls out, then you're really going to have to pay him. And if he doesn't ball out, then I guess, I don't know, you lose a little bit of leverage, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you, Clarence. I really do. I think you have to give him longevity to prove it, I think. I know I already said it. I really like a back end contract for us if we're going to go with Sexton. Let that first year prove that he still has the value and everything. If it's something that you don't think will work out, let another team pay that money to this contract, not us.
Yeah, you would think coming off the major injury that might hurt his value a bit and you'd be able to keep him for less, but apparently it doesn't appear like that's going to be the case.
No.
All right. So before we wrap it up, you're in Kobe Altman's seat Thursday night. Who is your pick at number 14? Who is your guy? Joey Schneider.
Ooh, that's tough. Now we're assuming every single person is on the board at this point that we talked about.
Yes. Who's your guy?
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Come on, Kobe.
So I think right now probably Johnny Davis,
My boy.
but I think that if you're looking, I think either one of these guys are going to work out in the long run. It's going to be either Johnny Davis or if he's there, or Jalen Williams. I think Jalen Williams is going to take a little bit more time to develop, but I think that he's got huge all-star potential. But Johnny Davis is just it. It's hard to look at a 6'5" shooting guard who averaged 8 rebounds a game and go, I do not want this guy. While he also averaged 20 points a game. It's hard to just be like, no, let's not take this guy who carried a team on his back and was the Big Ten Player of the Year. He could play 1 through 3. He could finish with both hands. He's got to work on his 3-point shooting. That's the biggest knock against him. But even at 30%, he averaged almost 20 points a game, 8 boards. He's got good court vision. I'm probably going to have to go Johnny Davis if he's there at 14.
All right, Brandon, who's your guy?
For me, it's Abaji. Just plain simple to me. Most experience, can hit the 3. Big time playmaker. I'm sure Joey will give me hell if the Cavs pick him. And I'm wrong. And we debate this over the next few years and the whole thing's going to podcast.
Me and Joe are pretty much in unison on the we both love Johnny Davis and both love Agbaji. You can't go wrong with either one of those picks.
Right.
I just personally, I think that me and Joe were very obvious. I think Jalen Williams is a potential all-star. I think that he's got the tools. If he develops, in the right way. But yeah, but either Davis or Agbaji are great picks. But if I'm in, you take Agbaji, I take Davis. I want to hear what Clarence has to say.
Clarence, who's your boy?
Y'all are trying to gas me up on this Johnny Davis guy when knowing well Wisconsin hasn't had a good guard come out since Devin Harris, maybe. I can't think of anybody else. They've had some big. If I'm Kobe, I'm trying to do everything in my power to move this pick for a wing. I'm trying to do everything I can, but if I have to make the pick, if there's no way for them to move that pick whatsoever, I mean, I guess I got to go with Jalen Williams. As I said, I don't feel like there's a huge difference between a lot of the guys from, like I said, from 14 to 40. I mean, clearly there are going to be some differences, but I don't know. I guess I would have to take Jalen Williams, but yeah, I'm trying to move that pick with the quickness for somebody to fill in that 3-man slot.
All right, Joe Ewell. Is it Johnny Davis?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, I'm really okay. Like, kind of what Joey said, and I'll elaborate on it a little bit. Like, I love either Johnny Davis or Agbaji, but I just don't. If both of them are on the board, I don't know. Like he said, how you sit there and look at a guy who averaged 20 and 8 as a point guard, and who led a team to the dance. He has that leadership. He wants to make the clutch shot. He wants the shot. He wants the ball in his hands. And those are the type of guys that you need. He wants to be that guy. And, I think he is that guy.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to go with Jalen Williams. I know a lot of these guys aren't ready to step in and play right away. A lot of these guys are developmental guys, and he impresses me the most from what I've seen. And like I said, I wasn't familiar with him, but I've done a lot of studying up on him, and I think he definitely has all-star potential down the road.
I think. Sorry, Clarence. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the one last thing is the one thing I'm concerned about is after we watched the playoffs this year, who is going to the guy that they pick? Who's the guy that is going to be guarding the Jimmy Butlers, the Jason Tatums, the Jaylen Browns? And I guess that's why I'm hoping for a bigger guy. But I mean, no matter what the Cavs do, we're gonna have to live with it, and hopefully one of us is right with the guy that we love. That's all I give a damn about.
Yeah. Well, kind of answer your question. I'm gonna one quick thing, then I'll kind of answer your question. I don't really think you can go wrong with any of those three. I think that if the Cavs take any of those three, I'm gonna be extremely happy with any of them. If Davis is there at 14, I'll be ecstatic. If they get Agbaji, I'll be ecstatic. I mean, me and Joe have talked hours and hours and hours about the draft, and those have always been our top two guys. I've watched a ton of tape on Williams, recently, and with him, really dominating the combine and playing with these other prospects. I think that he's gonna blossom into just one hell of a player. Even like I said, I think he's got all-star potential. Just like Johnny Davis and Agbaji could step in day one and help. But to kind of answer your question, who is the Cavs' best defender? What Cavs player guards the other team's best wing?
It's Chetty. Come on.
Isaac Okoro.
Isaac Okoro. Isaac Okoro is only 6'5".
Mm-hmm.
So you got these, Johnny Davis is a great defender. Jalen Williams is a good defender. Agbaji is a good defender. Now, they haven't played in the NBA, but even though you're drafting a rookie, doesn't mean that you're getting someone who cannot guard these guys. It's just, that might take how many games in the season it's going to take before they're comfortable, going up against them.
Sure.
Yeah, I hate to rag on Okoro because he's still such a young kid, and he can develop, more and more and more. But it's just right now the Cavs need, when the Cavs needed him to score more than 4 points a game, it seemed like he couldn't do it, and those were the games that the Cavs lost. He's a great, there's no doubt he's a great defender, but you can have guys who come in who can be maybe not as good as Okoro, but still pretty good, but who can put up 15 a game, who can, who are going to get 5 assists, who have better court vision. So, and I think any of the players that we named could potentially be that player. So, and one other thing, Brandon mentioned something about you're like, do we have to get rid of? You said we had to get rid of someone like Osman or Okoro, and then you threw Levert's name. No, we're not getting rid of Levert. How dare you?
Dude, we have talked about this now. Do you remember the first podcast after the season started when I came out and I was literally screaming, "Get rid of him! He did nothing in the play starter. Get rid of him!"
I think we're going to see a different Karis LeVert next year.
Well, what's up? We need to be one.
I hope so. But the nice thing is if he does not work out, this is his last year. It's $18 million off the books.
Right.
We got Kevin Love coming off as well after this year. Hopefully he'll resign at a lower number. If he still plays well, but if not, then that's 30 million off the books, and we're gonna have to be looking now. Garland's gonna be wanting a max contract. We got to look at 4 years from now. Mobley will be. So. Got to kind of be careful on who we're spending money. And I think that's where the draft pick is important.
The Cavs kind of myth. Let's be real.
That's where
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, that's where the draft pick is important. If you do get a guy who you can hit on, if Davis or Agbaji or Williams or whoever they take hits, and that player is a good player, you have 5 years of that player at a very low number.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's where, as much as we tell I would love to trade the pick and Sexton for this guy or that guy, or if you can hit on this pick, then you can go out in free agency when someone bigger comes up and take that guy on maybe like a 3-year deal, because you're not going to have to pay this the pick this year for another 5 years.
Well, like Brandon mentioned too, this team has options. You mentioned LeVert last year of his contract, Love last year of his contract. Those are 2 very big expiring trade chips, a la Ricky Rubio this past season, that they could potentially use at the deadline as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully Love plays like he did last season, because that was a big reason that the Cavs were in the position they were in. We don't know if they're going to be able to sign Ricky Rubio again, or even how healthy he is. but if they can't get him at the right number, I mean, really, it seemed like the Cavs season started kind of going down when Rubio went down. I mean, Rubio pretty much gave up his knee for the Cavs this season, and he was kind of the heart and soul of this team. So if we can get him back and he's healthy, then that'd be amazing. But we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this was just my point real quick is, if you're gonna bring back Sexton, Rubio, we know they were on the team last year, but then you add in LeVert and a potential draft pick. There's only 5 guys on the court at one time. Mostly only 9 or 10 guys play in a rotation. Somebody is going to be left out of this rotation. Now, again, it could be Jetty, more than likely, probably, as we saw at the end of last season. But there's just not enough room for all of these guys on the team. That's just me.
I think one thing I can safely say is Rajon Rondo will not be back.
Real quick, Brandon, name me some of the players who made an impact this season on the Golden State Warriors.
Curry, Thompson, Draymond, Porter, Wiggins, Looney, Gary Payton,
Poole.
Jordan
I don't know.
Poole.
Jordan Poole.
So that's what, 8?
That's 8 players. Guess what? The only 5 can start.
Right, but they all play different positions off the bench. The Cavs have all the same guy. LeVert, Osman, Okoro, they're all basically the same player. That's what I'm trying to say.
I cannot put Karis LeVert in the same category as Chetty Osman. That is
Well, that's where we'll have to agree to disagree. We'll talk about that next week.
All right, guys, let's get this wrapped up so I can get it posted. I want to thank you guys all for joining me, and hopefully we provided some good insight for the draft. Hopefully you guys check this out. And we're all looking forward to Thursday night, and stay tuned next week to All Things Cavaliers for the draft recap. So everybody have a good night, and we will talk to you next week.
Let them know.